Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the de-extinction of the dire wolves Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. Colossal Biosciences Incorporated is a biotechnology company based out of Dallas, Texas, that was founded in 2021. Its mission is to preserve endangered animals through gene editing technology. Using a team of 132 scientists, the company developed modeling software that could lead to significant advancements in genetic engineering, synthetic biology, and the treatment of diseases. Among other endeavors, the team wanted to de-extinct several animals, including the Tasmanian tiger, woolly mammoth, dodo bird, stellar sea cow, and the dire wolf, meaning they intended to bring these creatures back from extinction. The company made progress on several of these projects. For example, they created mice which had gene edits based on woolly mammoth mutations. They referred to these creatures as woolly mice. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. In 2023, scientists at Colossal Biosciences started working toward bringing back the dire wolf, a creature that became extinct about 12,500 years ago. The extinction was probably caused by a shortage of large animals that dire wolves consumed. Hunters caused this shortage, so humans caused the extinction of the dire wolf by wiping out their food supply. The team extracted 2 DNA samples. One sample was from a piece of a tooth that was 13,000 years old. It had been discovered in Sheridan Pit, Ohio. The other sample was from an ear bone taken from a nearly complete skull discovered in American Falls, Idaho. The skull was 72,000 years old. The DNA of the dire wolf is very similar to that of the modern gray wolf. They share 99.5% of their DNA. The team focused on 20 genetic differences on 14 genes, which differentiated the dire wolf from the gray wolf. If genetic modifications corresponding with these differences were made to the genome of the gray wolf, the team could create a phenotype of a dire wolf. Essentially, using the base of a gray wolf, they could recreate the genetic code of the dire wolf and bring it back from extinction. This is exactly what the team did. Using CRISPR gene editing technology, they made the 20 modifications on the 14 genes of the gray wolf. The nuclei were transferred into dog ova, which developed into embryos in a laboratory. The 2 surrogate dogs were the recipients of 45 embryos. Of these 45 embryos, only 2 developed to term, 1 in each dog. On October 1, 2024, 2 male dire wolves were born. Even though they came from separate mothers, they are identical twins. The wolves were named Romulus and Remus. These names were taken from Roman mythology. In the story, Romulus and Remus were brothers. Romulus established the city of Rome after killing Remus. Colossal Biosciences repeated the procedure using another surrogate mother. On January 30, 2025, a female dire wolf named Khaleesi was born. Her name came from the character in the Game of Thrones series. The dire wolves are different than gray wolves in a few ways. For example, dire wolves have larger bodies, a larger head, teeth, and jaws. Their jaws are stronger, their legs are more muscular, and their shoulders are more powerful. An adult gray wolf will usually weigh around 120 pounds. The dire wolves will weigh about 140 pounds when they reach adulthood. At this point, they will be too aggressive for workers to pet them. I mean, technically, people could continue to pet them, but it could result in an unplanned, de-extinct wolf-facilitated dismemberment. All 3 wolves are being kept in a 2,000-acre preserve in the northern United States. The location, which is kept a secret by the company, is surrounded by a 10-foot fence and patrolled by drones. Colossal Biosciences continues to work on their other projects, including bringing back the dodo bird and the woolly mammoth. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. A key criticism of the dire wolf resurrection is the integrity of the wolves that were created. Did Colossal Biosciences really bring back a dire wolf, or did they just modify a gray wolf to look like a dire wolf? The ancient dire wolf DNA was not spliced into the genome of a gray wolf, but that's not necessary for de-extinction. In theory, the gray wolf genome could have been completely modified so that it was identical to the dire wolf. This way, the new dire wolf would be indistinguishable from the ancient one. The problem is, that's not what the company did. They did not make all the changes necessary to the genome to truly create a dire wolf. Even though gray wolves and dire wolves share 99.5% of their DNA, this still leaves 12 million base pairs, which are different. Reconstructing a dire wolf using genetic modification would be extremely difficult. Essentially, the team made a creature that shares key physical and genetic characteristics with the dire wolf. It is a phenotype, not a replica. One could think of it as a functional analog of a dire wolf. Even so, the company accomplished something that is astonishing. It is an achievement that places them at the forefront of the genetic engineering industry. Which brings me to item number 2. While bringing back the dire wolf is an impressive feat, does it really qualify as a productive use of science? This effort seems to be more theatrical than anything else. For instance, the company indicated their de-extinction efforts are focused on animals that are cute, scary, or striking. It would appear as though getting the attention of the public is the point of these selection criteria. Bringing back extinct animals probably won't really help society, but the technology developed in the process could have significant ramifications in areas that are important. Many scientific advances used in everyday life have occurred while organizations were pursuing divergent goals. For example, quite a bit of technology developed for the military has proved useful for non-military applications. Whatever the potential uses of the genetic engineering technology, the company has attracted a lot of interest from investors. Its current valuation is over $10 billion. Some of the investors are well known, like the director of the Lord of the Rings franchise, Peter Jackson, and the talent-free hotel heiress, Paris Hilton. I find it ironic that Paris, who has a social media persona that should be extinct, is investing in a company that believes in de-extinction. Item number 3. When people hear about bringing extinct creatures back to life, they often think of the Jurassic Park movie franchise. Those movies contain numerous warnings about the dangers of reintroducing creatures who have not been around in a long time. Arguably, that is the primary lesson contained in each of the movies. De-extinction is a bad idea. The prospect of bringing dinosaurs back to life may frighten many people, but there is no cause for concern. The DNA of a dinosaur is required to resurrect it, and DNA only lasts for about 1 million years under ideal circumstances. All non-avian dinosaurs went extinct about 66 million years ago, so there is no need to worry about being chased by a Tyrannosaurus rex during the morning commute. These dinosaurs are never coming back because their DNA structure has been lost to the ages. For those excited about extinct creatures once again roaming the earth, there is some good news. There are many interesting creatures that became extinct within the last 1 million years, like the woolly mammoth, which last walked the earth about 4,000 years ago. Arguably, the advent of this amazing genetic engineering technology means that any animal that goes extinct now may not have to remain that way. As long as scientists have access to the DNA, there is a chance the animal could be recreated. Item number 4. There is a persistent concern that de-extinction is not a good idea, even if it can never be used to bring dinosaurs back. Like dinosaurs are not the only dangerous creature out there. The warnings contained in Jurassic Park could still apply to non-dinosaurs. Instead of being fearful of raptors, the source of fear could be dire wolves, Tasmanian tigers, or woolly mammoths. For people who are a little more creative, maybe even dodo birds. Is it possible that woolly mammoths could run amok and terrorize cities like giant, unstoppable hairballs? I suppose that the apocalypse could come by way of woolly mammoth, but it is unlikely. The greater danger is probably to these animals themselves. They will be brought back to an environment where their kind have not lived in thousands of years. They would not be adapted for current environmental conditions, like the weather and sources of food. Also, many animals only thrive in groups, so scientists would have to bring back large numbers of them for any of them to be happy. That sounds expensive. Perhaps spectators will keep money flowing for a while, but eventually people will get tired of visiting the woolly mammoths. Another concern is, where does the genetic engineering technology lead next? What if scientists started focusing on building entirely new organisms rather than bringing back extinct creatures? People worry about a robot apocalypse, but maybe biological machines should be the cause for concern. Now moving to my final thoughts. With the advent of de-extinction technology comes the unsettling possibility that someday nothing will be off limits as far as constructing living creatures. Could human beings become masters of DNA, architects of life itself, wielding power once reserved for myths and horror movies? This power may end up in the hands of people with questionable taste, insatiable greed, and a flexible relationship with ethics. This new class of wannabe deities would have the ability to conjure up any organism imaginable. Scientists could engineer creatures that entertain people, feed the population, fill zoos, serve as loyal pets, guard homes against intruders, look cute on Instagram, or seize control of the planet as the dominant species. It's easy to see how this technology could shift from curiosity to catastrophe, from a flashy novelty to a world-changing enterprise, or worse, a world-ending enterprise. Today, it's a dire wolf. Tomorrow, it's a half-shark, half-honey badger with a taste for irony and the temperament of a caffeinated grizzly bear who just learned that his credit score dropped. What happens when genetically enhanced apex predators decide it's time for a shakeup in the executive offices? Creating new creatures or bringing about de-extinction for old creatures could lead to extinction of the current occupants of the planet. Those are my thoughts on the dire wolves, Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.